Welcome back to another Going Rounds podcast. Hope you guys like that new intro. It's a little something new I put together. I get some ideas sometimes and I want to, put them into play. So, um, I'll do some stuff like that here and there. I'm sure you see the backdrop moving a little bit. You might hear a little bit of air in the background, and I apologize for that. But, I got to deal with what I got to deal with, and I had to go out of town for work. So I'm not in my usual room in my house. I'm actually in a hotel room. That's why I didn't go live. Like I said, I'm just trying to make sure I get through this and get the podcast out like usual. But I like to share the little obstacles I have here and there. I've done it in the past, and it's just something I want to keep doing. Just keeping it real. I do have times where I feel like, maybe I shouldn't say this or say that, just to kind of keep it in the background. But, you know, things happen all the time. That's life, right? So work drug me out of my house, or I'm sorry, out of my city. So I had to go and, take care of business. No big deal. I'll be back tomorrow, but I wanted to get the podcast out tonight like normal. So pre-recorded, not live. Unfortunately, didn't want to chance the internet here. It seems pretty good, but should be good enough to get this out pretty decent, as decently timed. I'm stumbling on my words here, but in a decent amount of time is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, um, you know, I share some of the things that happen with my podcast, like last week, with my first guest ever. I'm hoping everything goes well. I was hoping nothing happened that, would affect the podcast quality and stuff like that. And of course, my mic was not working correctly. So there was another obstacle. I was pretty pissed off about that because, to be honest, I enjoyed that podcast. It was nice having a guest. Sometimes just sitting here talking to myself, it's a little different and it's a little hard to get used to. And I don't, taking a pause here and there, dead air is never good. So, when you have someone else talking, you get that chance to take a breather, take a drink, swallow correctly, and not act like it's a bad thing to do normal functions. But I just try to keep the audio clean as much as possible, not making any kind of annoying noise. Like right now, I have to have the air on in here. It's too hot not to. I'm still in Arizona. I'm just not home. But so it's still hot. So I had to turn the air on. I had it off at first. Too hot, man. It's crazy. But I don't want to be sweating on camera. That's just weird. So my backdrop's moving around a little bit. You might hear some air. I hope it's nothing too crazy that gets on anybody's nerves. But it is what it is, and I'm putting this out here. I brought all my stuff, tried to make it look as normal as possible. So here we are, doing the damn thing. There was a lot going on between last weekend and now. We recapped the fights last week, and there was a fight night for UFC last weekend. And we didn't go over those fights too much. It wasn't a huge card, but it turned out as usual. That's kind of how it works. It's not a big card, but there's a lot of great fights that happen during those nights. So I got to keep that in mind when I'm doing this podcast, because sometimes it may not seem like the best card, but then you get way better results in some of the really good cards. So I got to keep it where I used to be, which was being extremely interested in every single fight, every single week, no matter what. So I'll do my best to keep that going. I'm going to recap those fights a little bit today because there was some interesting things that happened. Very emotional kind of card. A lot of fighters let out a lot of emotions. It's kind of crazy to see. Doesn't happen all the time. We'll get into that though. Let's see what else happened. There's been some stuff going on. Today, I didn't put anything in for this because I wasn't exactly sure. It happened earlier today. Seems like Kevin Holland might be retiring, which he fought in the last fights that I did cover. Um, you never know with these guys, man, especially the younger guys or the guys that don't seem like it's time to retire, and then they decide I'm done. They do this little game, I guess, And I don't want to accuse him of playing a game, but I will say it's fucking weird how he just comes out of nowhere and says, made a lot in the last 30 days, got paid, I'm out. Something like that he said. I don't remember. I posted it on Instagram and Facebook. You know, I threw some reposts up there. So check him out. Going Around's podcast on both. I'm sure if you follow anything, you've probably seen something about it now. But I do post things like that just so everyone can see things here and there. So if you go take a look at my pages at all, you know, you'll see these things floating around because I try to just kind of gather that's what everybody does, right? You just kind of gather all the news. I'm not an official journalist or reporter or anything like that. I don't have any kind of connections. So I do what everybody else does, which is you see something, you repost it, you like it, share it, whatever it is you do, retweets, anything like that. So, you know, like I always say, if you don't want to follow all of the accounts out there, you can follow mine and you'll see most of the big news, big things that pop up that are posted, and I'll repost them for you and you can just go there and check everything out. May not cover everything, you know, but I cover as much as I can, all the big news for sure. So anyway, Kevin Holland, who knows? We'll see what happens. Everybody seems to be retiring. So, you know, he's a fool kind of sometimes. You know, these guys act out and want to joke around or make people laugh or throw people into a frenzy about something or another. So we'll see what happens with that. Let's see. That's about the biggest thing right now that happened today. There's nothing else really. I mean, there's some talks about Conor. They're talking about Conor a lot lately. So it makes me wonder if something might happen. I was already under the impression he wasn't going to fight this year, still getting over the leg injury. And it didn't seem like he was going to be back this year at all. But I've been seeing a lot of news about him. And sometimes when things like that happen, it's like a TV show, you know, or like a game show when they interview a certain contestant and you see a lot of content on them throughout the show. And then at the end, it turns out it's because they went home or they got eliminated or anything like that. So it seems to be that way when it comes to MMA media. You keep seeing a lot about it over and over again, and it's because something's about to happen. So who knows? Maybe we'll see some kind of news about him soon. I know that Mayweather said something about him and Conor fighting again. But Conor, I did see that earlier. Conor posted a picture of him punching Mayweather during their fight, and he said not interested with a couple peace signs. So he says he's not interested, but you know Conor. He does what he does, and he'll say some shit now and do something different later. It's the nature of the game, I guess. But let's go with some more news, more retirement news, I should say, which this one's kind of sad. Jose Aldo, he announced that he was retiring, and his retirement's real. Like, there was a couple stories out there about how it was kind of odd that the UFC released him, even though he had one fight left, and didn't force him to take that last fight. You know, Nate Diaz had to go through the ringer, waited a year and a half, almost 2 years, just to get that last fight, and he kept saying he wanted fight after fight after fight after fight. He said yes to fight after fight. They wouldn't offer him fights after a while. They just put him through everything, and then he finally got his fight. All the craziness happened, and he wasn't retiring, but it was his last fight on his contract. So Aldo had his last fight on his contract too. One more fight left. He fought Merab. I covered that in one of my first episodes, and he lost. But I guess he decided after that he wanted to retire. There's already talks about him going to boxing. They released him from his contract, which is cool because that doesn't usually happen. If you retire with fights on your contract, then you have to stick to that contract and you can't fight anywhere else unless you come out of retirement. Then you have to go back to the UFC, fight out your contract. So it's kind of weird how that went down. But big ups to Jose Aldo, man. He's a fucking gangster. He's a legend. He was such a badass in, when he was in his prime. I don't want to say he's not in his prime anymore, but I will say, he's not the same fighter he used to be when he kicked the shit out of Uriah Faber's legs so bad that Faber couldn't walk for 3 weeks. And that's coming from Faber's mouth. That was what he said. I heard a story earlier about that night, and somebody that was sitting, somebody close to Faber that was sitting in the audience watching him get wheeled out on a stretcher because of how bad. And he said, Faber was in good spirits and laughing and joking, but if he tried to walk, he couldn't. That's how bad his legs got beat up. So Jose Aldo, man, retiring from the UFC. We'll see if he's going to stick in any combat sports, but all I got to say is, man, thanks for all the fights. Aldo, you were a beast. You held the title for so long, and there's tons of good fights. People forget after you got knocked out by Conor in 13 seconds, everyone seemed to have forgotten how good Jose Aldo was. I wish he would have stuck with his massive kicks that took out Faber, like I was just explaining. But he didn't. He kind of got away from that, and I feel like that was part of the reason why he wasn't so successful anymore in a lot of his fights. Because that was just his thing, and he just doesn't do it anymore. Maybe he had some problems with his legs or something from all those earlier kicks, but in the end, Jose Aldo, thanks again. We appreciate everything you did for the sport and all of the fights you had. And good luck, man. I hope to see more good stuff coming from you soon. And if not, I hope you enjoy your life and be happy, because a lot of these fighters don't get out of this game and have a happy life afterwards. So hopefully he made enough money to keep him going and be able to do whatever he wants to do. I know he has some businesses outside of fighting for the UFC. He has like a burger chain and stuff like that in Brazil, I think. I'm not sure if it spans out of there, but he's definitely got things going for him. So best of luck, Aldo. And yeah, we'll keep up and see what's going on with him in the future. Let's go ahead and get into recapping some of this card from last week. Decent amount of fights, some of the undercard stuff was pretty good. Robertson versus let's see, Agapova. I don't want to mess up names, but that's a kind of a tough one. That was a crazy fight. She got choked out. Agapova got choked out by Jillian Robertson, and she did something weird. Apparently she spit out her mouthpiece at one point in time, and as you can see, if you're watching and you can see in this picture, she's biting her tongue as she's getting choked out. That's a nasty choke. It's in deep. I don't know what she was doing, but unfortunately, after she got choked out, like choked to sleep, and she kind of looked like she went into some, not like a seizure, but like seizure-like motions after Robinson let her up or let her out of the choke. So when they stopped the fight, and it was weird. She was like stiff as if she got knocked out, but sitting up. It was rough. I mean, I had a picture for it, but I don't know. It makes more sense if you go watch the video, and you can find it if you just type in their names: Agapova versus Robertson, UFC Vegas 60, and check out the video. It's kind of disturbing, but it's a little crazy to watch. So if you want to check it out. But yeah, that was a pretty crazy fight. They went back and forth, and Robertson just got her in this nasty choke and put her to sleep. So that was a nice undercard fight. Then we had the emotional stuff that started with Damon Jackson. He won his fight in like 59 seconds, which was nuts because he was fighting a pretty decent fighter, Petrie, and Jackson just mauled him, and he got him in a choke. Petrie got out of it, wound up giving up his back again, and Jackson got on top of him, just wailed on him, punches, ground and pound. It was aggressive. I don't know, I lost my words there, because yeah, I was just thinking about the video I watched where, but I didn't get to watch all these fights. I had a lot of stuff going on that day. but I went back and watched a lot of them, and this was one of them because I kept hearing about the aftermath, which was because Damon Jackson is here in this picture crying against the cage. And guys get emotional after fights, especially big ones, but this was a decent fight for him, but it wasn't anything, it wasn't a kind of milestone fight or anything like that. So I was wondering what was happening when I saw him, being so emotional. It turns out that a week before, or 4 days before, I think it was like 4 days before his fight, his brother passed away. So, I mean, that's tough, man. I've lost some people in my life, and I know it's rough to get past it, especially when you have something that you need to put all your attention and focus on. And that's what he talked about in interviews I listened to with him. His brother seemed like a good dude. It seemed like that's why he got into MMA. So, but yeah, he said he put it all out of his mind, and he said he felt like he had to still take the fight. And he told his parents and his family that he couldn't talk to them until his fight was done, because he knew he wanted to dedicate the fight to his brother. He took on his brother's nickname, I guess, when he played sports, was Action Jackson. So, Damon Jackson's normal nickname is the Leech, which is weird because that's like Li Jingliang. That's his nickname, the Leech. But I guess Damon said he's gonna probably just stick with Action Jackson in honor of his brother. So, condolences to his family. That sucks to lose somebody that close. And then, for him to fight, it reminds me of Chris Barnett from not too long ago. We covered, actually last week when I covered that with Patrick, we talked about Chris Barnett, the crazy big dude that does flips and lands on his ass. That guy had the gift playing for a little while, if you remember. But yeah, he had just lost his wife too. I think he said a week before, if I remember right. So man, these guys got some heart coming out here and still fighting through all of that turmoil. It's nuts. So this is why I respect a lot of these fighters. They go through a lot. And anyway, Damon Jackson got that win. It was a good win. It was a good showing. I think he took out everything he had inside of him and got that win in 59 seconds. But then we move over to Andre Fili. Same kind of thing. His win wasn't as impressive. He dominated quite a bit. There was a judge that made it a split decision and gave his opponent the win, even though everybody seemed to agree that Fili pretty much dominated throughout all the rounds, enough to know that it should have been a unanimous decision. But after the fight, he went and said something too that he got emotional about. 1 second. I guess his wife or girlfriend had a miscarriage not even a month before his fight. So he was battling that throughout his whole fight camp. And I guess no one knew except for his coaches, because his coaches kind of have to know what's going on with him. And he wanted them to be on the same page. So, he broke down a little and talking to DC on the mic after the fight. That stuff it's tough, man. It's normal life. Kinds of obstacles makes anything I'm going through seem like nothing, when you hear about people doing that. And, I don't have a lot going on right now, but, I have in the past, and you hear about people still continuing to do things, and it's just kind of motivation to say, hey, bad shit happens. You got to still do what you got to do. Keep living your life. And, that's why I commend these guys for getting through, coming out with the win too. It didn't even phase them. Maybe they had a hard time in fight camp, but they definitely came out with wins. So, like I said before, a lot of emotional stuff going on this week. With this fight, Joe Pyfer. I'm not sure if you guys heard, this was going around everywhere. Dana White actually, a lot of people give Dana White shit. He is kind of a jerk. He's kind of an asshole about a lot of things. He kind of has that, I'm rich and I don't give a shit mentality sometimes. But, he's a cutthroat kind of dude. And but sometimes you see the good. A lot of people vouch for him being a really good guy, doing a lot of good things for fighters. I've gone off on a rant before about Dana and the pay structure for the fighters. It is what it is. That's just me and my feelings on it, my opinions. But there's a lot of good things that Dana White does do, and this is one of them. It usually doesn't come to light. People usually don't say things, or maybe he tells them not to. I'm not sure, but Joe Piper came out and said that Dana pretty much kept him from being homeless. I guess he told Dana. I guess Dana was asking him what was going on with his life or something. I'm not sure how they got into the conversation, but apparently Piper told him, "Hey, I'm basically about to be homeless." So Dana gave him money to live on, gave him a place to stay, which is pretty dope. I mean, I like that. That's stand-up shit right there. That's the kind of stuff that you like to see out of someone like Dana White. But you can't save the world, but he's doing what he can for the people around him, and I give him props for doing that. When you hear the good stuff, you can't always focus on and talk shit about all the negative stuff and not point out the good stuff that people do as well. So there's one good thing right there. He does a lot of good things for a lot of people, apparently. We just don't hear about it. And he said that in the press conference, that he talked about this. Someone asked him a question and he said, "I do a lot of shit for a lot of people, you just don't hear about it, and I don't talk about it." And he's only talking about this one because Piper put it out there. So but Piper got the win. For the life of me right now, cannot remember who his opponent was or how he won. But yeah, that story kind of took over. So yeah, a lot of emotional stuff. This one might bring out some emotions in you. I don't know if you saw any of this, but this is something else that happened this past weekend. Exciting fights cause for things to happen, and this is one of them. Look at that cut. Holy shit. Greg Rodriguez, man, I guess he was getting worked. I don't know if that was a knee or an elbow. I think that one was a knee, and that's a hell of a cut. I mean, look at how open. It looks like somebody just carved a piece of his forehead out with a knife. If you're not watching this, that's how I'll explain it. I mean, it's a gash. Look, I can't even explain that. It's nuts. And in between the eyes, so basically in between the eyebrows. And so imagine how much that area moves and how weird that's got to feel. I know he got stitched up in the end, and it didn't look too bad, but holy shit is that a cut. And if you want to know how bad of a cut that really was, I'm about to gross you out. If you're squeamish about these things, maybe don't look at this. I shouldn't have said nothing, just had fun with it and said, fuck it, let you look at it. Here it is. Bam. I don't even know what that is that you can see inside of his head right there, but it's fucking gross. It's insane. How I wish I could explain it. If you're not watching this, go look it up. Greg Rodriguez, massive cut in UFC fight. I don't know, however you want to look for it, but you'll find it because that's crazy. That's probably the worst cut I've ever seen. And I've seen some shit, Robbie Lawler's lip hanging off his face. Someone's ear got kicked off of their head. Basically, it was hanging by pretty much skin. A lot of crazy shit has happened, but this one takes the cake for right now. I mean, I've never seen something that bad, especially to look like it did in the last picture and then to wind up looking like this. Holy shit. But I guess that was a damn war. Rodriguez came out with the win. Man, that's just, I want to see like a slow-mo replay. I don't think I've come across it yet. I want to see a slow-mo replay of what caused that. Because, I mean, it's almost bigger than one of his eyebrows. And he's got pretty big eyebrows. So, yeah. Pretty bad. Then we get to the main event. Song Yadong with another nasty cut. And that was caused by an elbow for sure. Because Corey Sandhagen has some nasty elbows. And he's got some crazy knees. But I believe this was caused by an elbow. and that's a pretty deep gash too. Nothing like the last one, obviously, because you could see some shit inside of that dude's head. But this one was pretty bad too. Sorry, got an alarm going off. I don't want to hear that on the podcast. Yeah, that's a nasty cut. Song Yadong. He got worked in that fight, man. Sandhagen did the damn thing. And they stopped the fight because of that cut. And I heard, well, the cut was obviously gushing blood in his eye. It was going right into his eye, so that was a problem. But they kind of said, hey, let it go, keep going, see what happens, see how long he can kind of handle it. But I guess in between the 4th and 5th round, they just called it because apparently Song Yadong's opposite eye, not the one with the cut, but the other eye got jacked up so bad that he said he couldn't even see out of it. The only eye he could see out of was the one that had the cut and had blood going into it. And he said he could see better out of that eye than the other eye, which he got. Yeah. Man. I'm looking at that knee just like, wait, maybe that knee was the one that cut him? I don't think so, though. I'm pretty sure I heard it was an elbow. Corey Sandhagen is a real long dude. Pointy elbows. Kind of reminds me of Kenny Florian back in the day. Has that same kind of body. But yeah, that's an insane flying knee right there. And, he showed respect. Sandhagen looked real pissed and real frustrated when they called the fight. But, it is what it is. When you got to cut that bad, man, I'm surprised they didn't call it earlier. And I saw a Instagram post earlier of Sandhagen's saying that Song punched the shit out of his shoulder. He had a bruise that had covered his entire shoulder. And I guess it was from the punches that were missed. Maybe they were clipping off of him and hitting his shoulder too. But yeah, he had a huge, a huge bruise on his shoulder. Nothing like that gash on Song's eye, though, that's for sure. But yeah, so there was a lot of stuff that kind of happened in that fight last week, and a lot of stuff that came up after the fact. And I think a lot of the stories that came from those fights were pretty interesting compared to some of the fights that actually happened. But anyway, gotta like the respect shown. I know that a lot of times these guys get upset about things and just kind of want to tell everybody to fuck off, but Sandhagen's a good dude and he's a great fighter. And it sucks to see the fight end that way, but he still got the win. And it sounds like, I didn't watch every minute of the fight, but it did sound like he was winning the majority of that fight anyway. So it would have been his fight no matter what. So anyway, the only fights we got coming up this weekend is going to be Bellator, and it's in Dublin, Ireland. So they do a lot of events in Dublin. Again, I meant to say before I even started that was no UFC fights this weekend at all. No free ones, no pay-per-views. So, this week we got Bellator to look forward to. It's not on a Saturday, it's on a Friday. And unfortunately, it's earlier in the day because it is in Dublin, Ireland. So the time change, Bellator just does it when it's time, basically. It's hard to even find out when Bellator is happening. They don't do a lot of promotion like the UFC does. If you're not on their app, or hell, even if you follow Bellator itself on social media, it's tough to figure out when it's happening, where it's happening, all that stuff. So here you go. I'm letting you know. Bellator on Friday. We got a couple notable names there. Ex-UFC fighters, Ben Henderson and Yoel Romero. But Henderson's fighting Quilly. He's from Ireland. And yeah, he's an interesting dude. We'll get into that one in a minute. But we got Yoel Romero versus Melvin Manhoef. And has potential to be a really great and crazy fight. But we know Yoel Romero and how he fights. So yeah, that's I don't know. Romero is a beast. He looks like this. So you think that he's gonna come out doing everything he can to just murder people. And he did in the past. But he's an older dude. And they said one of the notable things about this fight is they said it's like combined age is 91, which is like the oldest combined age of a fight to ever happen, which is crazy because they've done fights with like Ken Shamrock and Kimbo back in the day, and those two fools were old already too, in their 40s, but still it's not as much as this. So 91 means one of them is what, it's 46 and 45. Like, damn. That's some age right there. But yeah, Romero still looks like a damn super athlete, and Manhoef doesn't look too bad for his age himself. I mean, these guys are fucking ripped, and Yoel does crazy shit like this, if you remember, against Chris Weidman in the UFC. Flying knee knockout, just out of the gate, nuts. And Romero's that type of dude. You know, he's got the athleticism, he's got the explosiveness, and he can do these kinds of things, but he doesn't always do it. He gets timid, and if somebody doesn't come out and fight him, he's pretty much like, we found that out in the Israel Adesanya fight. If somebody doesn't come at him, he's not doing a whole lot, because it's almost like it throws him off if you're not coming at him. But I keep these gifts going sometimes because I just enjoy watching the craziness. That it's either something funny or something just impressive, and that's an impressive knockout right there. I feel bad for Weidman. I mean, he folded in half, hit his face on his knee as Romero falls on top of him, kicked him again in the back of the head. If you see that at the end, bam, right there. Oh, that was like his knee going in the back of the head. I don't know that I ever noticed that before. That's like double knockout status right there. But anyway, we'll see what kind of stuff we see coming out of Romero this fight. He's up and down in Bellator, so who knows? The age thing comes into play, but everybody says he's a freak of nature, so we'll see what that does for him. And he's fighting Melvin Manhoef. Like I said, both these dudes are ripped for their age. It's crazy. And but Manhoef, this is his retirement fight, so we'll see if he's gonna go out with some fireworks or if he's gonna go out kind of like just ready to go, getting in that last fight, official retirement. But against Yoel Romero, that's a tough out, man. So we'll see how that goes. Manhoef is a beast too. He's got crazy kicks. He was in a I don't know if he was world champion kickboxer, but he's definitely upper echelon in kickboxing back in the day. He's done a lot of different stuff in mixed martial arts in general. But if you haven't heard of him, he was scary back in the day. And, you know, it sounds to me like his chin's kind of gone. So if Romero does some crazy shit like that flying knee, or just catches him, because Romero throws really hard and fast punches, so he has the potential to knock somebody out quickly. But we'll see what he does. Maybe there's too much respect. I watched Face Off today. It didn't look like there was all that much respect, but it also didn't look like they had a lot of aggression towards each other either. So I guess it's just one of those things. We'll have to wait and see. I'm interested to see this fight. I probably won't get to watch it live because of the time that it's on. You know, I got to drive back tomorrow, so I might be driving still when it's going on. That kind of sucks. But it is what it is, and I'll have fun, you know, watching it again when I get to sit down and have the chance to. The next fight, notable fight, I should say, because there's not a lot of names that you might know on this card. There's a couple other ex-UFC guys in the lower card, stuff like that, but we got Bennett Henderson and Peter Quilly. And Henderson is an ex-UFC fighter. I'm sure you recognize him. He was around for a long time, and he was pretty much a contender for most of his career in the UFC. Then he moved over to Bellator quite a while back. He's been there for a while now, but he's an Arizona guy, and he's a really nice dude from what I understand. But one of the his opponent, Quilly, he's from Ireland, and I picked this picture because if you're not watching and you're just listening, he's got his fist in the air, he's looking around, there's a crowd in the background. He's standing at the opening of the cage, and yeah, I think it was his actual last fight was also was also in Ireland, I think. Either way, there was a lot of Irish fans, and he walks out to the Cranberries Zombie. And if you know anything about that song, which I didn't know where that song came from, but as he's walking out, basically the song starts, and I heard the guy's name earlier, but I can't remember, and I didn't write it down, unfortunately. But the announcer at the moment broke down like what this song was about, what it was made for, history in Ireland. And I mean, his words were pretty, I guess they were stunning, man. Like, it was perfect. He was talking all the way up until the like true part that everybody wanted to, sing along with, and the crowd got loud. You could hear them singing every word of that song. And if you know that song Zombie, you know which part I'm talking about. My wife absolutely loves that song, and I had her, after I watched the walkout, I put it on the TV and had her watch it because I knew she would appreciate it because of the words that the commentator spoke about, the history behind the song and all that. And as he's standing here like this, the commentator said something to the effects of, this is what a true warrior is about. It's not about cowardly men who bomb innocent children, something like that. But man, I got chills. Like, it was pretty impressive just watching the crowd, listening to them singing, and the words that the commentator had for everything. And the timing was just fantastic. It was perfect. Like, he broke it down. He stopped talking when, the major part of the song hit, listened to the crowd for about a minute, a little longer, and then pop back in with the right words. Perfect timing. It was awesome. But Quilly's a great fighter. He fought, I think it was Patricky Pitbull or Patricio Patricky Pitbull, I think. He beat him once and then he lost to him. His last fight he did lose, and that was for a belt, I believe. So now he's fighting Hendo, which Bendo, I should say, because Hendo is Dan Henderson. Bendo is Ben Henderson. And if you know Ben Henderson, he's a great fighter, and that he's known for a lot of great things, like the toothpick in the mouth. Even during, like, I don't know how many fights, he had a toothpick in his mouth at all times. Even during the fight, he's getting punched in the face, kicked in the head, and he's got a toothpick in his mouth, which is insane. I don't know how he got away with it the whole time. But if you don't know him for that, you probably know him for this. Showtime Kick. Unfortunately, he was the victim of that kick. And this happened, if you're an Arizona person, it happened in Arizona. It was the last WEC fight before they got bought out by Zuffa and taken over by the UFC. And that was Anthony Showtime Pettis. That's why they call it the Showtime Kick. Pretty goddamn impressive, if I must say so. That's oh man, it's sick. I mean, no matter that was years ago, and I'm still impressed by watching that. I haven't seen anybody do anything like it since. I've seen a lot of people try, but that was perfect. And I think that was one of the things that catapulted Anthony Pettis to being the star that he was. He became champ in the UFC, wound up on the Wheaties box, all kinds of crazy shit, and now he's got his own fight promotion even. And his fights haven't been too great as of late, but this kick was amazing. Unfortunately for Ben Henderson, he probably didn't think so. So anyway, he's a great fighter, and I'm looking forward to this fight. I will watch after the fact, because it's just something that interests me for sure, and I want to watch and see how good that walkout might be for Peter Quilly too. But yeah, that's about it. Bellator tomorrow, early too. So if you can't, just catch it whenever. I'm sure these main two fights should be interesting enough to at least look out and see if you can find that. Watch that. Should be pretty good. So last thing on the agenda here, I almost forgot about this, and I wanted to bring it up. So Dana White Contender Series on Tuesday nights. I believe this week's was the last one of the season, because like, apparently they do seasons. But what they do is it's almost like the Ultimate Fighter, kind of, except they're not living in a house. They don't have to, get away from the outside world or anything like that. And they don't have cameras following them around all the time. But what it is they just find talent, basically. So it's like a tryout league, I guess you could say. So this week, I had heard about this before, but this week was the actual week that a 17-year-old kid named Raul Rosas Jr., 17 years old, and he was able to fight in the Contender Series on Tuesday. He won his fight by unanimous decision, but he did a lot of impressive stuff, like this kick that he did land on the chin, by the way. Didn't knock him out, but it was a pretty impressive kick. He moved around a lot. His jiu-jitsu was pretty good. He had a lot of great defense. The only thing I did notice is he gets put in a guillotine a lot. I don't know if that's credit to his opponent, who, by the way, was 25. I don't know if that's credit to his opponent being good at guillotines, or if maybe Rosas puts his head down too much, and that's something that can hurt him a lot. But he's 17 years old. I mean, no matter what, he's got work to do, and he's got a lot to learn. But as of right now, he's better than a lot of UFC fighters I've seen coming in, at least. You know what I mean? And he held his own. He won that fight impressively. The only thing better would have been a finish, but he did the damn thing, and I enjoyed watching his fight. I watched the whole thing, and it was good, and I think he did well. He's got a lot of people. Adam Hunter, the jokester that he is, MMA roasted. He put out something saying that he put his picture up, and he's like, if Bigfoot Silva and Max Holloway had a baby. And I didn't understand really, except for maybe with Max Holloway, maybe it's because this dude has kind of some facial features that look like him a little bit, maybe the hair. And then, well, Bigfoot Silva, it was obvious. He's got the ears, maybe his face more. But then I heard the kid talk, and then I realized why he said Max Holloway, because he kind of does talk like him. And it sounds like he... I don't want to say that. I want to say it sounds like maybe he's been hitting the head a few too many times already. But he's a kid, and he's still growing up. I mean, I don't even like my voice, so who knows? But the kid looks like he's got a personality, and he fights well. And, I mean, if he keeps going on this route, he got the contract. I don't know if I said that yet, but he did get the contract. So he signed to the UFC as a 17-year-old. You know what kind of dumb shit I was doing when I was 17? I mean, I could have done a lot worse, but I was doing some dumb shit when I was 17. This kid just got signed to the UFC as a 17-year-old. Like, the fuck, man? That's impressive in its own. Nothing else matters. He's going to be able to say, I was the first ever 17-year-old to be, signed to the UFC, the youngest ever to be signed to the UFC. So he's already saying, I'm going to be, my goal is to be the youngest ever champ. So that would mean he'd have to beat out John Jones's, I think he was 21? I think that was how old John Jones was when he became champ. Either way, he's already saying, I would love to come in and fight all the champs and ex-champs, and, he's got the talk for sure. So I'm excited to see where he goes with it. He's got work to do, and he's got some stuff to learn. And I hope he learns how to keep his head out from those guillotines, because he's going to get finished real quick, like by a lot of people, if he doesn't learn to keep his head out from those. I just hope it was this fight only. And if he keeps up with that dynamic striking, those flying, spin kicks and all that stuff, he could be dangerous and exciting and entertaining. So be looking forward to that. I thought it was a crazy thing that the UFC would even think about signing somebody that age. I heard Dana talking about maybe we need to keep him out of Vegas for a while. because he's not even old enough to be in the casinos. So that's pretty funny. There's got to be some challenges to signing somebody that, you know, that young. So good luck, man. Raul Rosas Jr. We'll see if that name becomes big. He's got a big following already just for the hype around being a 17-year-old. He proved that he can fight. Obviously, Dana White started this Contender season series screaming at the fighters, not giving anybody a contract, saying, you're fucking out here to fight. You're out here to impress. You're not out here to be boring and laying around on people. You're out here to do something impressive and push the pace, and it's your one chance, and you want to come out here and waste it by laying around on people hoping that you win. I'm not giving anybody a fucking contract. That's pretty much how he started this season. And then he ends it by giving somebody a contract that is 17 years old, did not win by a finish, and was pretty impressive. But I wouldn't say, I mean, yeah, he did kind of blow me away. But I think that has a lot to do with his age. Being 17 and doing what he did. All right, I'll say it. He blew me away. So I guess, yeah, it's worth it. I don't think that it's a waste. I think it's a good thing. And I want to see where he goes with it. And I hope that he continues down the path of learning and doing the right thing and not becoming one of those guys like John Jones, maybe, who does some dumb shit because he gets too famous too quick. I hope that he's focused on being a great fighter, being a champ, and becoming that, and wanting to hold on to that as long as possible instead of letting it get to his head and becoming one of those reckless dumbasses who fuck up their life pretty much. But I guess we'll see. So that about wraps that up. Next week, I don't know. I'll see what's going on. Things have been crazy. It's been busy. A lot of stuff's been going on. I appreciate again everybody who tunes in. You know, I did want to say, for anybody out there who knows me, talks to me, sees me, you know, if you got questions, ask questions. You know, don't be afraid to talk to me about this. This is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. And honestly, I didn't know how much I wanted to do it until I got into doing it. And it's something that I'm kind of passionate about. And I'm not like that with a lot of things. I mean, I am, but I'm not. You know, I'm not as outgoing with some of the stuff that I'm passionate about as much as I have been with this. So, you know, that's why I like to show my appreciation, and I like to be real about it, you know, talking about my, you know, hookups of last week with my mic. Could have easily fixed it too. It would have been so easy to fix. And I just doubted myself and I let it go. And, you know, it didn't turn out horrible. I enjoyed that podcast because Patrick knows his shit. He brought up a lot of good points about a lot of things. He knows a lot of the older fighters and the way that fights used to be. And a lot of talking about Pride to me, man, you got me right there. Pride is dope. It was dope. Pride never dies. That's something everyone always says because there's still fighters in the UFC that used to fight in Pride. Very minimal, but there is. And, you know, you're always going to find somebody that fought in Pride somewhere, or you're going to hear about them because there was a lot of big names that came out of Pride. Yeah, but, you know, a lot of these guys that we know from that era and that age, they're going away. They don't make fighters like that anymore. And, you know, that's a consequence of becoming mainstream, but it is what it is, you know. Everything has to change and everything evolves in a certain way, whether it be good or bad. But as far as I'm concerned, you know, MMA and combat sports in general is probably my favorite thing to watch. What am I saying? Probably. It is my favorite thing to watch. I like watching football too. Of course, I don't really watch baseball as much as I just keep up with my team, which they're in the postseason, by the way. Playoffs, here we come. They clinched already, and they've got more wins than they had last season at this time. So, fuck yeah. Braves, let's go. Do it again. Defending world champs. I hope they become world champs again. But yeah, there's my baseball rant. I'm always wearing a Braves hat, as you could tell. It's football season, but I'm not too impressed with my football team. But I guess I got my colors because I'm a Colts fan. So, yeah, Not too good so far. A tie and a loss, and an embarrassing loss. Fuck. Maybe I need to go start watching again every Sunday. Nah, it didn't work before, so yeah. Anyway, yeah, so combat sports is my thing. I love it. I love watching it. Mostly UFC, obviously, but I'll watch everything. I like to follow the fighters mostly wherever they go. I'll still keep up with their careers. You know, I miss guys like Donald Cerrone, BJ Penn, um, you know, Randy Couture, Dan Henderson. Dan Henderson, by the way, I mean, I've seen him. I see him at least once a year. He goes to Country Thunder, and yeah, he camps right up the way from where we do, which is pretty badass. I don't bug the dude because he's out there to have a good time. The first year we saw him, we took some Jello shots with him. That was cool. He was just passing by, said what's up, gave him some Jello shots, cheers it up, and he was on his way on his golf cart. Badass. That's all I care about. Seeing somebody and having somebody be cool. I mean, that's worth more than anything. It's cool to get a picture with people. It's cool to talk to them and shake their hand or whatever. But you do something like that, it's almost more memorable. Last year, didn't really get to talk to him or see him. Well, or I mean, didn't really get to talk to him or interact with him, but we saw him, you know, passing by. Like I said, he's up the way from us where we camp. So, you know, I've met Don Fry before. Don Fry is one of those old school guys. He's a Pride guy as well. Against what was that fight? I always forget the dude's name. Takayama, I think. Bleached white hair, kind of reminds me of Bigfoot Silva, except taller. And yeah, they went blow for blow, just punch after punch after punch. Anyway, yeah, just remembering that fight is crazy. Don Fry's on a podcast, on the MMA Roasted podcast, by the way, with Adam Hunter. He's on there almost every week. So it's cool to hear Don tell stories. Apparently, he had his own podcast for a while with Dan Severn, who's another legend, old school guy. I don't know if they still do that, but anyway, it's cool to hear from these older guys, all their stories. Don Fry's kind of an outlandish dude. He's got some crazy opinions on things, but who cares? He's a fucking badass and he's a legend. And they don't make dudes like that anymore. So, I mean, he pretty much sounds like he's got gravel in his throat because his voice is so deep. But he's a cool ass motherfucker. That's all I know. But I miss these old school fighters. I wish I was doing this when Cowboy was still around. That was one of my favorite fighters of all time. And I got to meet him as well at a fan expo. He was cool as shit to my kids. He was cool as shit to me. Took some great pictures with him. Like I said, BJ Penn, I haven't had the opportunity to be around him or meet him at all. But that was one of my favorite fighters too. Me and Patrick talked about that. You know, I always followed him. I was emotional when he retired the first time. The second time, I was like, please, BJ, just be done. It's one of those times when he pushed it too far, you know, just like Chuck Liddell. And I read something earlier about Chuck Liddell having CTE so bad that he's hard to understand him. And I hope that's not true. I hope that's just a rumor. But I mean, Chuck was in some wars. There's a lot of old fighters from back in the day that, you know, just to see, I want to see all these guys do well. And they didn't have a lot of the things or get paid as much as a lot of the guys these days do. But the pay still isn't where it needs to be. And there still isn't things in place for these fighters after they're done fighting to have. They don't even have health insurance when they're fighting. The UFC will take care of surgeries and medical bills and stuff like that here and there. But there's a lot of stories out there about how they don't. And things that the guys have gotten stuck with and they're broke because of. So there's a lot of things that happen in these sports when you really get deep involved and you start learning and you pay attention and you listen to a lot of stuff that has to do with them and you find out a lot of things. And that's why I'm doing this because, I mean, I do pay attention. I do watch a lot. I do listen to a lot of what I do is listen to a lot of podcasts that have to do with MMA. And, you know, I'm not biting off any, you know, all of them. And that's not just what I'm doing here. But, you know, how else do you get news? How else do you get information? You listen, you read, and you watch. and that's the only way to do it. So this is my way of getting to talk about all that stuff. You know, a lot of people I know do watch fights and are interested in the things I'm interested in, but to have a conversation about it, whether it's with someone or just to get all my thoughts out there, is a whole different thing, and that's why I'm doing this. So I don't know. That's just my thought on. I'm over here out of my elements, away from home, so I got extra time, and I don't know, got into my thoughts there for a second. But hey, it's MMA, old school stuff. I do miss all the old days. I miss the days when I watched every single thing, no matter what. And these days, it's a little harder. You know, I have more responsibilities at work, and work takes a lot of my time. And I do other podcasts, which, by the way, I do want to shout out. Final episode. That's what our other podcast is called. I do it with my brother-in-law and his actual brother, and then a friend of theirs. So I just wanted to shout them out. Magic's Tommy and Christo. We do a podcast every Wednesday and Sunday on YouTube. We always go live, and it's usually at around 7 p.m. But we're real laxed about it, you know. We kind of come in and just do our thing. You know, we're trying to get things a little more structured, but it's a lot of fun. And podcasting, that's how I got into podcasting. Those guys helped me out a lot with a lot of things. I mentioned it in my first episode of this podcast. And that's what the show is called, the final episode. And if you want to find it on YouTube, it's the Murd channel. That's what it's called, MURD. And you can find it there. I can share a link soon to one of them, and maybe that'll drive more attention that way. We are trying to get a little more into maybe getting a little more structured and trying to get more viewers out there. We did it a lot of the times for fun, but you know, it's always meant to go somewhere. So we have fun. We talk a lot of shit. We do a lot of things, like having soundboard wars.
I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Stuff like that. We're always talking shit to each other. And, you know, sometimes we get into heated discussions, conversations, disagreements. We talk about a lot of, I guess, I don't know, entertainment stuff. Yeah, we talk about a lot of shows and movies that we watch, news and you know, celebrity news or just news in general. We do get into stuff that I like to stay away from, but I get involved anyway. Political and religious stuff sometimes. I don't know. It's just fun. We talk about a lot of shit. We keep it real. And yeah, we might offend some people here and there, but it is what it is. That's how I got into podcasting, though. And that's where I was going with this. So I just wanted to shout out Final Episode crew. Mondays and Wednesdays, 7 p.m. on YouTube, always live. So, you know, we roll with the punches there too. Whatever happens, happens. Sometimes screens go out, sometimes audio goes out, but who gives a shit, right? It's fun. You're going to laugh. Don't fucking cry because we don't care. And yeah, it's fun. So check it out if you get a chance. Otherwise, yeah, don't forget to actually go to my channel and like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you know when I do go live and when a new episode comes out, like tonight when I release this. And I will upload it as soon as I'm done here, and you'll get it right then. And then I will also put it on all the audio streaming platforms so that you can just listen if that's what you prefer. Because I know I just listen to a lot of podcasts, but I've gotten more into watching because I learn things by watching other podcasts. So, and I do a podcast that you can watch. So why the fuck am I telling everybody just to listen? Or why would I only just listen? That's what I'm saying. I wind up watching this back to see how stupid I am or what dumb shit I did, basically to critique myself. And then I listen to it as well. So that way I don't have to worry about watching my stupid self and just listen to my stupid voice. But Yeah, either way, I got to do it so I can make sure that I fix anything that I'm doing that I shouldn't be doing. So, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and go follow my social media. Going Arounds Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. I still haven't made the fucking Twitter one. What am I waiting on? I'm being a lazy ass. So I got to do that. And I put the Going Rounds, I keep pointing that way. It's that way. I put the Going Rounds uh, page there or logo there so you know what the hell I'm talking about, even though you're watching it. Don't ask me. I don't know. It's going to go away and I'm going to put the Twitter handle there. Anyway, yeah, go follow the pages. Give me some love. Come on. I mean, like, I don't really ask for things all the time, but I would like it if you went and liked my pages and paid attention to them if you're into this stuff. And if you're not, well, if you see it pop up, just hit the like button. It ain't going to hurt you. The fuck? It's not going to hurt you. Just hit the like button. I have trouble with that too, though. I do. I'll go look at things and I'll get involved in reading what's in it or paying attention to the picture, and I don't like it. I don't know why, but it's dumb because I could be helping out whoever's page it is, right? So I need to start doing it too. I'm guilty of it too. So I'm over here talking shit, but I do the same fucking thing. So I don't blame you. Let's all change our ways. Fucking, you see one of my posts, just hit like. You know, even if you don't read it, if you just read what it says on the post and don't look any further into it, just hit the like button or hit it just because you saw it. I don't care. Now I'm just fucking rambling. But anyway, it's much appreciated. I don't usually ask for things like this, but I'm out here doing this. I might as well try to grow it. You know, that's why I always go back to the YouTube stuff, like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Plus, then it lets you know when it's out. You know, if you listen only, you can also hit the notifications on any of those platforms so that you can download it, listen to it whenever, or just stream it, listen to it right now, whatever you want to do. Hopefully, I don't get on your nerves too much with my stupid voice while I talk. But I'm hoping that some stuff comes up soon that is well worth a guest again. We'll just have Patrick come in again, unless I find somebody else that wants to come in. I'll trade off. Patrick seems very interested, so shout out to him. If he wants to come on a lot, that's good for me because I enjoyed the conversation with him, and I think that he's got a lot to offer. So if you're listening, buddy, let me know. Either way, I'll hit you up. And yeah, maybe we'll have some other guests here soon. But, you know, we got to have the good fights to cover and the good, interesting topics to cover so we can, you know, keep the conversation going. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling now. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, checking it out. I hope you like the intro again. Hopefully I'll come up with some more cool shit to do. I'm going to get that Twitter handle on here. Oh, I didn't even mention what it was. Going Rounds Pod. So basically everything's the same, but Twitter doesn't like that many letters in your handles, so it's Going Rounds Pod on Twitter. Go follow that shit too. A lot of funny stuff happens on Twitter. I don't get into it too much, but I will retweet a lot of the stuff that I see because that's where it all the beef derives from Twitter most of the time, or Instagram. All the informative shit comes over on Facebook, but no matter what, you're gonna get what you want to see. So go follow, go subscribe, go do everything. I'm going to shut the fuck up now and stop rambling, and I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you again for tuning in and checking it out, and we'll see you next time. Later.